Introduction. Understanding habits is the key to figuring out why we do what we do every day. More importantly, it's the first step to becoming a better version of ourselves. But just how important are habits? Someone once said, "Life is merely the sum of our habits." While we like to think most of our decisions are rational, research shows that at least 40% of our daily actions are driven not by deliberate thought, but by our habits. This brings us to The Power of Habit, a book by best-selling author Charles Duhigg. In this insightful work, Duhigg unveils the pervasive influence of habits and how harnessing their power can transform our lives. Drawing on research from institutions like Harvard and MIT, he delves into the neuroscience and psychology behind habit formation. He also examines case studies of successful companies to show how good habits can not only improve individuals, but also drive organizations to success and even push societies forward. In this video, I'll break down the book into 3 parts. 1. The science of habit formation. How exactly are habits created? 2. Personal transformation. How understanding habits can help us improve ourselves. 3. The bigger picture. How the power of habits can be used to improve groups and organizations. Let's dive into Part 1. Part 1. The science of habit formation. How do habits form? From a young age, we're taught various habits. Teachers and parents often drill things into us, believing repetition is key. But contrary to popular belief, memory and habits aren't as closely linked as we might think. Take the fascinating case of Eugene, a man who lost his memory due to a viral infection that damaged part of his brain. Eugene could recall past events from his youth, but couldn't form new memories. Conversations with him were fleeting. He would forget them almost immediately. Despite this, Eugene could still live a relatively normal life, thanks to his habits. For instance, while Eugene couldn't draw a map of his home or consciously recall where the bathroom was, he would still get up and find it instinctively when needed. This perplexed researchers. How could someone who couldn't remember his home layout navigate it so effortlessly? The answer lay in the brain's basal ganglia, a small, ancient part of the brain that stores habits, even when memory fails. Scientists studying Eugene discovered that while his memory was gone, he could still form new habits. For example, though Eugene initially struggled with getting lost on walks, he eventually developed a routine that allowed him to leave the house, pick up pine cones, and return, all without any conscious memory of the journey. Eugene's story revealed something groundbreaking. Habits exist independently of memory. This realization prompted scientists to dig deeper into the mechanics of habit formation using lab mice. In one experiment, mice were placed in a maze to search for chocolate. Initially, their brains were highly active as they sniffed around and explored. But over time, as the mice repeated the maze, their actions became faster and more automatic. Brain activity decreased, and the basal ganglia took over. The research showed that habits bypassed the brain's higher thinking areas, allowing it to conserve energy for more complex tasks. Essentially, habits are the brain's way of going on autopilot. This autopilot mode explains why we can forget algebra formulas after years of disuse, but never forget how to ride a bike. Riding a bike is stored as a habit in the basal ganglia, not in our conscious memory. Scientists identified 3 key components of habit formation, which they call the habit loop. 1. Cue, a trigger that signals your brain to start a behavior. 2. Routine, the behavior itself. 3. Reward, the payoff that reinforces the habit. This loop creates a self-reinforcing cycle, making habits stronger over time. Part 2. Transforming yourself through habits. Now that we understand the habit loop, how can we use it to break bad habits and build better ones? Contrary to popular belief, breaking a habit isn't about sheer willpower or telling yourself to stop. In fact, focusing on not doing something often backfires. For example, if I tell you not to think about a blue elephant for the next 10 seconds, what comes to mind? Probably a blue elephant. The same principle applies to habits. Trying to resist a bad habit by sheer force of will often makes it more tempting. Instead, the key is to replace the habit with a better one. Here's how you can use the habit loop to change lanes and replace a bad habit. Step 1. Keep the same cue. Identify the trigger for your habit. Step 2. Replace the routine. Swap out the undesirable action for a better one. Step 3. Keep the same reward. Ensure the new routine satisfies the same need as the old habit. For example, Charles Duhigg shares his personal struggle with afternoon snacking. Every day, he'd leave his desk to buy a cookie from a nearby cafe, which led to weight gain. To change this habit, he first analyzed the habit loop. The cue was the urge to leave his desk, the routine was buying the cookie, and the reward was either a sugar rush, a change of scenery, or socializing with coworkers. To pinpoint the reward, Duhigg experimented. One day, he went for a walk without buying a cookie. Another day, he bought a piece of fruit. A third day, he chatted with colleagues without eating anything. Through trial and error, he discovered that socializing was the real reward he craved, not the cookie. Armed with this knowledge, he replaced the routine with walking to a coworker's desk for a chat. Over time, the new habit stuck, and the cookie habit faded away. Part 3. Transforming organizations through habits. Once the author had figured out the 3 elements of the habit loop, cue, routine, and reward, he focused on making a deliberate change. He kept the cue, the 3:30 p.m. alarm, and the reward, the conversation with a colleague, but he replaced the routine, going to the cafe for cookies, with something healthier, chatting with a colleague instead. At first, it was difficult. It took effort and discipline to walk into the office and engage in a conversation instead of heading to the cafe. However, as he continued this new behavior, he found that it became easier and more natural. Over time, he no longer felt the intense craving for cookies. The new habit, based on the same cues and rewards, started to feel just as satisfying, but with the added benefit of being healthier. This process of habit replacement can be applied to any bad habit. Instead of trying to force yourself to simply stop a bad habit, you can find a positive alternative that fits within the same habit loop. If you replace the old routine with something healthier, you can gradually reshape your behavior without relying solely on willpower. For example, if you're trying to stop eating junk food, don't just tell yourself no when you feel the urge. Instead, replace the routine with something positive. Perhaps you could take a walk or have a healthier snack like fruit. This way, you satisfy the reward of a break or energy boost while reinforcing the new, healthier habit. In conclusion, habits are powerful, and they shape much of our daily lives. By understanding how habits are formed and how they can be changed, we can take control of our behaviors and create lasting positive changes in our lives. Whether you're trying to improve your personal habits, change your diet, or make better decisions at work, the 3-step habit loop, cue, routine, and reward, offers a simple yet effective framework for making lasting improvements. Now that you understand the science behind habits, you can start making them work for you, whether for personal growth, improving productivity, or changing old patterns that no longer serve you.